Since childhood, we have been taught that money is something tangible: bills, coins, numbers in a bank account. School prepared us to work for it, but it never taught us to question its true nature. However, the wealthy, those who dominate the financial game, know that money goes far beyond what most people imagine. It is a system, a mechanism of control, and understanding its rules is what separates those who thrive from those who fall behind. Robert Kiyosaki, author of the best-selling Rich Dad, Poor Dad, has always challenged the traditional way of thinking about money. He taught us that the rich don't work for money, they money work for them. And now he's doing something that might seem surprising to many, investing in Bitcoin. But why? To understand this decision, we first need to grasp how Kiyosaki views the current financial system. He has long warned about the dangers of fiat money, the kind created by governments, with no real backing, based solely on public trust. Since the United States abandoned the gold standard in 1971, the dollar and other currencies around the world have been printed without limits, leading to inflation and gradually eroding people's purchasing power. While most people believe that saving money is a safe strategy, Kiyosaki teaches that this is a fatal mistake. Keeping money in the bank means watching it lose value every day as governments continue printing more money, devaluing what already exists. The wealthy protect their wealth by investing in assets that preserve and multiply their value: real estate, precious metals like gold and silver, and more recently, Bitcoin. But what makes Bitcoin so special to Kiyosaki? And how does this cryptocurrency fit into his vision of financial freedom and protection against economic crises? Let's dive deep into these questions and understand why he believes this could be one of the greatest opportunities of our generation. To grasp why Robert Kiyosaki is investing in Bitcoin, it's essential to explore his perspective on money and the global economy. He has always emphasized that financial education is what separates the rich from the poor, and that most people are trapped in a system designed to keep them dependent on a paycheck. This system is built on a fundamental concept: the devaluation of money over time. Kiyosaki views fiat money, such as the dollar, euro, and real, as fake money because it can be printed at will by governments and central banks. This means its value is constantly eroded by inflation. He has been warning about this for decades, but recent events have made this reality even more evident. The pandemic, for instance, led governments to print trillions of dollars to sustain their economies, further driving global inflation. And this is where Bitcoin comes in. Unlike fiat money, Bitcoin has a limited supply. Only 21 million units will ever exist. This makes it a scarce asset similar to gold, meaning it cannot be inflated in the same way as traditional money. Kiyosaki understands that in a world where governments devalue their currencies to pay off debt, owning assets that cannot be politically manipulated is a way to protect and grow wealth. But Kiyosaki doesn't see Bitcoin merely as a store of value, he views it as a financial revolution. Just as the internet decentralized information, Bitcoin decentralizes money. It removes intermediaries like banks and governments, allowing people to have full control over their own assets. For someone like Kiyosaki, who has spent years teaching about the importance of breaking free from the traditional financial system, this is an incredibly powerful concept. Additionally, he understands that the future belongs to those who can anticipate change. Just as visionary investors who bought gold before major financial crises protected their wealth, those acquiring Bitcoin today may be safeguarding themselves against the collapse of traditional money. But how does this translate into practice? How is Kiyosaki structuring his Bitcoin investment? And what does he advise for those who want to follow this path? To better understand Kiyosaki's logic regarding Bitcoin, we need to look at how he builds wealth. His focus has always been on acquiring assets that generate cash flow and offer protection against financial crises. He invests in real estate because it provides passive income through rent, in gold and silver because they are historically proven stores of value, and now in Bitcoin because he sees it as the digital gold of the 21st century. Looking at recent economic trends, Kiyosaki sees clear signs of a potential global financial crisis. He warns about the risks of rising government debt, the possible collapse of the dollar, and the loss of confidence in the traditional financial system. Amidst all this, Bitcoin emerges as a solid alternative. While printed money loses value, Bitcoin becomes more valuable precisely because its scarcity is programmed and immutable. Another crucial reason he invests in Bitcoin is the cryptocurrency's resistance to censorship. Unlike traditional money, which can be seized, frozen, or devalued, Bitcoin offers something Kiyosaki deeply values: financial freedom. He believes that, in times of economic turmoil, governments may impose more restrictions on people's money, as we've already seen happen in various countries. Since Bitcoin is decentralized, it escapes this control, allowing anyone to have full ownership of their wealth without relying on banks or governments. However, Kiyosaki is not naive about Bitcoin's challenges. He understands that it is a volatile asset class, subject to sharp price drops in the short term, but he doesn't invest with the mindset of a short-term speculator. He approaches it with the long-term vision of an investor who sees the financial transformation taking place. For him, every drop in Bitcoin's price represents a buying opportunity, a concept he refers to as buying the dip in the financial crisis. Given this scenario, how can an average investor apply these teachings in practice? How can one protect their wealth while also taking advantage of the revolution Kiyosaki believes is unfolding? For those who want to follow Robert Kiyosaki's vision and start investing in Bitcoin, the first step is to understand that this asset should not be treated as a short-term gamble, but rather as a long-term strategic investment. He doesn't see Bitcoin as a get-rich-quick scheme, but as a safeguard against the financial collapse he believes is approaching. One of Kiyosaki's most valuable lessons is that true wealth doesn't come from how much money you earn, but from how much of that money you convert into real assets. He consistently emphasizes that the middle class and the poor tend to store their wealth in cash and traditional financial products, such as savings accounts and bank funds, which are constantly devalued by inflation. The rich, on the other hand, put their money into assets like real estate, precious metals, and now, increasingly, Bitcoin. The core concept here is protection against inflation and loss of purchasing power. Imagine someone who has kept their money in the bank for 10 years. Today, that money buys much less than before because inflation has eroded its value. Meanwhile, those who invested in scarce assets like gold or Bitcoin have seen their wealth grow as these assets have appreciated over time. This is the logic Kiyosaki follows and encourages his followers to adopt. Another key point he always emphasizes is the need for financial education. Before investing in Bitcoin or any other asset, it's essential to study and understand how it works. The mistake many beginner investors make is entering the market without knowledge, driven only by hype or fear of missing out. Kiyosaki consistently advises people to learn about the technology behind Bitcoin, how blockchain works, and why this cryptocurrency represents a break from the traditional financial system. Additionally, he stresses the importance of diversification. Although he strongly believes in Bitcoin, Kiyosaki doesn't put all his wealth into a single asset. He continues investing in real estate, gold, and silver, maintaining a balanced approach. For those looking to follow this strategy, the key is to start small. Invest only what they're willing to hold long-term, and never rely exclusively on one type of investment. Robert Kiyosaki not only invests in Bitcoin, but also believes that the future of global finance will be radically transformed by it. To understand his perspective, we need to analyze how he views the coming years and the events that could further drive Bitcoin's appreciation. One of the main factors Kiyosaki highlights is the inevitable devaluation of the dollar and other fiat currencies. With governments printing money uncontrollably to pay off debt and sustain struggling economies, people's purchasing power will continue to decline. Inflation is already eroding wages and savings, and according to Kiyosaki, this is just the beginning. He believes we will witness a collapse of the current monetary system, where traditional currencies will lose even more value, and people will seek refuge in scarce assets like gold, silver, and Bitcoin. Another crucial factor he considers is the growing institutional adoption of Bitcoin. Initially, this cryptocurrency was seen as a niche investment associated mainly with tech enthusiasts and small investors. But today, major corporations, investment funds, and even traditional banks are starting to allocate Bitcoin as part of their financial reserves. According to Kiyosaki, this trend is a clear sign that Bitcoin is moving beyond being a speculative asset and becoming a cornerstone of the new global financial system. Furthermore, Kiyosaki believes that blockchain technology, which underpins Bitcoin, has the potential to decentralize not just money but the entire financial system. Currently, banks and governments have absolute control over people's finances. They can block transactions, freeze accounts, and manipulate interest rates. Bitcoin offers an alternative to this system, allowing anyone, anywhere in the world, to have full control over their own money without the need for intermediaries. However, Kiyosaki also warns about the challenges Bitcoin may face. He understands that governments will not easily give up control over money. Stricter regulations may be introduced to make Bitcoin access more difficult, and central banks are already working on their own digital currencies to compete with decentralized cryptocurrencies. But he believes that, in the long run, Bitcoin will continue to grow precisely because its greatest strength is something the traditional system cannot offer: scarcity, decentralization, and financial freedom. Given this scenario, how can an investor prepare to make the most of this revolution? How can one make smart decisions without falling into common market traps? To fully capitalize on the Bitcoin revolution and follow Robert Kiyosaki's mindset, it is essential to have a well-defined investment strategy. He does not recommend buying Bitcoin impulsively, but rather adopting an intelligent and disciplined approach based on solid financial education principles. The first step for any investor is to understand that volatility is part of the game. Many people hesitate to enter the Bitcoin market because they see its sharp price swings, but Kiyosaki views this differently. To him, price drops represent buying opportunities. He often says, "The rich buy when the market is in panic and sell when there is euphoria." This mindset led him to invest in gold and silver at the right times, and now he applies the same principle to Bitcoin. Another key point he emphasizes is the concept of dollar-cost averaging, DCA, which means buying small amounts of Bitcoin regularly, regardless of the price. This strategy allows investors to build a position over time without needing to predict market highs and lows. As Kiyosaki always teaches, the focus should be on the long term, not on quick gains. Additionally, he highlights the importance of protecting investments. Unlike money in a bank, which can be easily accessed with a card or an app, Bitcoin requires special security precautions. Kiyosaki advises investors not to leave their cryptocurrencies on exchanges, as these platforms can be vulnerable to hacks or even bankruptcy. Instead, he recommends using cold wallets, hardware wallets, which provide greater protection against theft or loss of access. Another crucial aspect he mentions is diversification. While Kiyosaki strongly believes in Bitcoin, he never puts all his wealth into a single asset. He maintains investments in real estate, gold, and silver, ensuring that his wealth is protected in different ways. For those looking to follow this path, the lesson is clear. Don't bet everything on Bitcoin, but also don't ignore the potential of this financial revolution. Finally, Kiyosaki reinforces that knowledge is an investor's greatest asset. He frequently warns that most people lose money because they invest without understanding what they're doing. To him, the best way to prepare for the future is to study, learn, and make informed decisions. Will Bitcoin really replace traditional money? One of the biggest questions people ask is whether Bitcoin can truly replace traditional money. For Robert Kiyosaki, the answer isn't so straightforward. He doesn't believe that Bitcoin will completely replace the dollar or other fiat currencies in the short term, but he sees it as an asset that can coexist with and even surpass traditional currencies as a store of value. Kiyosaki highlights that Bitcoin's greatest advantage over traditional money is its decentralization. While the dollar, euro, and other currencies are controlled by governments and central banks, Bitcoin belongs to no institution. This means that no one can simply print more Bitcoin the way governments print money to pay off their debts. This characteristic makes Bitcoin a hedge against financial crises and a safe haven for investors looking to escape state control over money. However, Kiyosaki warns that governments and central banks won't watch this revolution unfold without reacting. We are already seeing various countries move toward creating central bank digital currencies, CBDCs. These government-backed digital currencies promise to modernize the financial system, but Kiyosaki views them with skepticism. He believes CBDCs could be used as surveillance tools, allowing governments even greater control over people's finances. Unlike Bitcoin, which is decentralized and censorship-resistant, central bank digital currencies could be programmed to restrict what citizens can or cannot do with their own money. Another factor Kiyosaki observes is the increasing regulation of cryptocurrencies. As Bitcoin adoption grows, governments worldwide have started imposing restrictions, creating taxes on transactions, and even attempting to ban cryptocurrency use in some cases. He sees these efforts as clear signs that Bitcoin is becoming a real threat to the traditional financial system. The more governments try to control or limit Bitcoin, the more evident its value becomes as an alternative to state-issued money. Despite these challenges, Kiyosaki remains optimistic. He believes that the decentralization enabled by Bitcoin is inevitable and that, in the long run, people will recognize the advantages of having money that cannot be inflated or confiscated by governments. He compares the current moment to the early days of the internet at first. Many governments tried to regulate and limit its growth, but in the end, technology prevailed. Looking at major economic events over the past decades, it's clear why Robert Kiyosaki believes Bitcoin will play a crucial role in the future. He has always warned about the fragility of the global financial system, emphasizing that crises are inevitable because fiat money is based on debt and excessive printing. And according to him, the next big crisis could be the most significant one yet. Kiyosaki has successfully predicted several financial crises, including the 2008 collapse when the U.S. housing market crashed due to the mortgage bubble. At the time, he doubled down on his investments in gold and silver to protect his wealth. Today, he sees Bitcoin as a new defensive tool against an even bigger collapse, the collapse of the global monetary system itself. He argues that governments can no longer hide the damage caused by decades of excessive debt. The pandemic accelerated money printing, and now we are witnessing the consequences in the form of rising inflation, financial market instability, and a weakening confidence in the dollar and other fiat currencies. Kiyosaki predicts that, at some point, this system will break down, and those who are unprepared will lose a significant portion of their wealth. Bitcoin, by its very nature, becomes a strategic asset in times of turmoil. In countries already facing severe crises, such as Venezuela and Argentina, Bitcoin has been used as a way to escape hyperinflation and government control over money. Kiyosaki believes this trend will grow globally as more people realize that central banks cannot guarantee long-term financial stability. Another key point he raises is the connection between Bitcoin and the so-called currency war. With countries like China and Russia seeking to reduce their dependence on the U.S. dollar, there is a global movement to reshape the world economy. In this scenario, alternative assets like gold, silver, and Bitcoin are becoming increasingly relevant. If the dollar loses its status as the world's primary reserve currency, Kiyosaki predicts that Bitcoin could become a preferred choice for investors looking to protect themselves against the devaluation of traditional currencies. However, he also acknowledges that the transition to this new system will not be easy. Many still resist the idea of Bitcoin, and governments will do everything they can to maintain control over the financial system. Yet he believes Bitcoin has already won the battle for credibility. Its network is more secure than ever. Institutional adoption is growing, and its value as a scarce and decentralized asset becomes more evident with each financial crisis. How to prepare for the future with Kiyosaki's Bitcoin mindset. To prepare for the future and apply Robert Kiyosaki's approach to Bitcoin, it's essential to adopt a strategic mindset. He always emphasizes that wealth is not just about how much money you earn, but how you protect and multiply it over time. One of his core teachings is that financial freedom is only possible when you step outside the traditional system, which is designed to keep people trapped in a cycle of working, spending, and paying taxes. To him, Bitcoin represents a path to this freedom, as it allows anyone to have full control over their own money without relying on banks, governments, or financial intermediaries. Kiyosaki advises investors to view Bitcoin as a protective asset, much like gold and silver. He doesn't suggest going all in on this cryptocurrency, but rather seeing it as an essential part of a diversified strategy to preserve wealth. He believes that those who prepare now will be safeguarded when the traditional financial system collapses. Another important aspect he highlights is patience. Bitcoin has gone through multiple significant downturns over the years, but has always recovered and reached new highs. For Kiyosaki, this isn't a reason to panic, it's an opportunity. He follows the strategy of long-term investors who buy Bitcoin during market downturns and hold it for years. This mindset aligns with his philosophy that the wealthy acquire assets while most people sell out of fear. Additionally, he emphasizes the need for financial education. Many people enter the Bitcoin market without understanding how it works and end up making mistakes, such as leaving their assets on centralized platforms or selling during panic moments. To avoid this, Kiyosaki advises investors to learn how to store Bitcoin securely, use cold wallets, hardware wallets, and understand the fundamentals of blockchain technology. Finally, he reminds us that the key to financial freedom lies in mindset. While most people remain stuck in the traditional way of thinking, earning a salary and saving money in a bank, the wealthy see beyond that. They invest in assets that preserve and multiply value over time. Bitcoin, according to Kiyosaki, is part of this new paradigm. Bitcoin, a financial revolution as big as the internet. The Bitcoin revolution doesn't just impact personal finances, it has the potential to transform the entire global economic structure. Robert Kiyosaki believes we are witnessing an unprecedented shift in how money is understood, used, and stored. And this transformation could be as profound as the internet revolution. He compares Bitcoin to the internet in the 1990s. In the early days, few believed the internet would have a real impact on society, and many governments and traditional companies tried to resist its expansion. However, as the technology evolved, becoming more reliable and accessible, it eventually became essential to the global economy. Kiyosaki sees Bitcoin following a similar path. Today, there is still resistance and skepticism, but adoption is growing rapidly. And he believes that in a few years it will be a common part of the financial system. One of the most fascinating effects of Bitcoin, according to Kiyosaki, is its potential to redistribute wealth. Historically, the financial system has always favored banks, governments, and large corporations, while ordinary people have had few real opportunities to build wealth. Bitcoin changes this dynamic by allowing anyone, anywhere in the world, to store and transfer value without relying on intermediaries. This is especially important for people living in countries with unstable economies. In places where local currencies suffer from extreme inflation, such as Argentina and Venezuela, Bitcoin is already being used as a safe alternative to traditional money. Kiyosaki believes this trend will expand as more people realize that central banks cannot effectively protect their economies. Another crucial point he highlights is Bitcoin's impact on financial sovereignty. In the current system, governments have total control over citizens' money. They can freeze accounts, block transactions, and even seize assets under certain conditions. Bitcoin offers a level of freedom that was never possible before, as it allows individuals to have full control over their own wealth. However, Kiyosaki also warns that this revolution will not happen without resistance. Governments and central banks will not give up their monopoly over money easily. He predicts that we will see more regulations, attempts to ban or restrict Bitcoin usage, and the introduction of central bank digital currencies, CBDCs, as a way to maintain control. But he believes that, in the long run, Bitcoin will continue to grow because its fundamental value is far more powerful than any government restriction. The Bitcoin revolution doesn't just impact individual investors, it has the potential to completely transform the global economic structure. Robert Kiyosaki sees this shift as inevitable and believes that those who fail to adapt will remain trapped in a broken financial system. He compares Bitcoin to the internet in the early 1990s. At first, many dismissed the internet as a passing trend. However, those who recognized its potential early, like Jeff Bezos with Amazon or Larry Page and Sergey Brin with Google, built empires that now dominate the digital world. Kiyosaki believes we are in a similar moment with Bitcoin. Skepticism still exists, but adoption is accelerating rapidly, and those who understand this opportunity now could benefit immensely in the future. One of the biggest impacts he foresees is the decentralization of the financial system. Today, banks and governments control nearly all financial transactions, setting rules, fees, and restrictions on how people can use their own money. Bitcoin disrupts this model by enabling direct peer-to-peer transfers without the need for intermediaries. This means less dependence on banks and greater financial freedom for individuals. Furthermore, Kiyosaki believes that Bitcoin can be a solution to financial exclusion. Millions of people around the world do not have access to bank accounts, but they can access Bitcoin with just a mobile phone and an internet connection. This creates new economic opportunities for communities that were previously excluded from the traditional financial system. Another major impact will be on fiat currencies. Kiyosaki argues that as more people realize the fragility of printed money, the demand for Bitcoin will increase. With a fixed supply of 21 million units, appreciation is inevitable. He compares this to gold. When people see that paper money is losing value, they turn to scarce assets that preserve purchasing power. However, this transformation will not happen without resistance. Central banks and governments are looking for ways to regulate or even restrict the use of cryptocurrencies. Some countries have already attempted to ban Bitcoin, while others are developing their own digital currencies to compete with it. Kiyosaki sees this as a sign that Bitcoin is becoming a real threat to the traditional financial system. For those who want to position themselves wisely in the financial revolution that Bitcoin is driving, Robert Kiyosaki recommends an approach based on knowledge, patience, and strategy. He emphasizes that simply buying Bitcoin is not enough. It is essential to understand what it represents and how to use it as part of a solid financial plan. Blockchain. Para a falta de conhecimento e o principal motivo pelo qual muitas pessoas perdem dinheiro nos mercados financeiros. No caso do Bitcoin, entender seus fundamentos e como ele se diferencia do sistema financeiro tradicional. E essential para tomar decisões informadas e evitar armadilhas comuns. Kiyosaki também destaca a importância de aprender com investidores experientes. Em vez de seguir o hype ou tomar decisões baseadas no mercado, ele recomenda estudar estratégias de pessoas que construíram riqueza ao longo do tempo. Isso inclui compreender como grandes investidores lidam com volatilidade, gerenciam riscos e identificam oportunidades. Por fim, ele reforça que o caminho para a liberdade financeira exige disciplina e paciência. Muitos desistem cedo porque esperam resultados imediatos. Mas aqueles que adotam uma visão de longo prazo e aplicam os princípios corretos têm mais chances de prosperar. Para Kiyosaki, Bitcoin neo e apenas investimento e parte de uma transformação maior na economia global. E aqueles que sabem se posicionar para se beneficiar dessa revolução. The more someone understands Bitcoin, the better prepared they will be to make informed decisions rather than acting out of fear or market euphoria. Finally, he encouraged people to take the first step as soon as possible. He argues that waiting for the perfect moment often means missing the best opportunities. In his view, even a small initial investment can make a significant difference in the long run. The key is to start and keep learning along the way. Robert Kiyosaki has always taught that financial freedom doesn't come from a high salary or saving money in a bank, but from owning assets that grow in value over time. And for him, Bitcoin represents one of the greatest opportunities in history for those who want to break free from the traditional financial system and protect their wealth against future crises. Throughout this discussion, we have seen how Kiyosaki views Bitcoin as a hedge against inflation and the devaluation of fiat currencies. He compares the cryptocurrency to gold and silver, assets that have stood the test of time and always served as safe havens during economic instability. However, Bitcoin has something that sets it apart: its portability, digital security, and independence from governments and central banks. We also examine the challenges Bitcoin faces, from market volatility to government attempts at regulation. However, Kiyosaki believes these difficulties are part of the cryptocurrency's growth and reinforce its importance as a new financial paradigm. He sees Bitcoin as a tool for those who want to escape state control and have full ownership of their money. For investors who want to adopt this mindset, Kiyosaki suggests starting small, learning about the market, protecting their investments, and being patient. He believes that, in the long run, Bitcoin will continue to appreciate as more people recognize the flaws in the current financial system and seek alternatives. Kiyosaki's final message is clear: the world is changing, and those who fail to adapt will be left behind. Bitcoin may not yet be fully understood by everyone, but the financial revolution is already underway. The question is not whether this change will happen, but who will be prepared to take advantage of it. Financial freedom is not a destination. It is a continuous process of learning, adapting, and taking action. And for Kiyosaki, investing in Bitcoin is one of the most powerful ways to secure a financially independent and secure future. What will you do with this information? Will you ignore this opportunity, or will you start preparing for the new era of money? The choice is in your hands.